Up in the sky! It's a bird! It's a plane! It's a good Superman movie! Superman is back, and this time he is helmed by James Gunn. The famed Guardians of the Galaxy director left the MCU and is now the head of the DCU, that cinematic universe that tried so hard to ape the success of Marvel, and after 15 films, it just ultimately couldn't. But fear not, because James Gunn has a plan, and Superman is his first entry into a new universe. The big question is, can James Gunn marry his offbeat, edgy sensibilities with a classic old school superhero like Superman? The movie opens and we're off to a great start. Why is that? Because there's no origin story. Everyone knows Superman by this point, so Gunn dispenses with all that backstory and gets us right into the action. This Superman has just lost his first fight, and as he recovers, he has to get back in the game. Supes is played here by David Corenswet, a relative unknown, but he's been in a few things, and he handles Supes' plucky sensibility with aplomb. Of course, everyone knows his sidekick is Lois Lane, here played by Rachel Brosnahan as a take-no-prisoners reporter. And after him is the iconic, envious, billionaire industrialist Lex Luthor, played by Nicholas Hoult here. Gunn smartly places Superman in a world not unlike our own, where cell phones and social media have an opinion on Superman just like the Daily Planet does. Supes is under fire for intervening in an international conflict, and the government is weary. Should this metahuman have this much power? Should he be put in check? Enter Lex Luthor, who has a solution or two on how to control this superpowered being. It's all the classic comic goodness that we know from the character, but it's brought to life brightly and colorfully by James Gunn. There is definitely a distinct effort here to be more like the Christopher Reeve Superman and a lot less like the Zack Snyder Superman. It has action, but it's not violent. It has vulnerability, but it's not brooding. And Gunn, who is a comic purist at heart, leans into the goofiness. This is a world where aliens and technology and robots and bizarre creatures and portal dimensions exist. It's gonna be inherently goofy, but we get the sense that he loves that stuff the most. It's all the comic book splash page stuff that separates this from, let's say, Marvel, who isn't always the most comfortable with leaning into its comic book roots. Gunn is a big dork, and he applies that dorkiness not just to the visual sensibility of the movie, but to Superman himself. This Superman and Clark Kent is a dork. His true character is a relic from a bygone era. In our fast-paced, cynical society, we don't need an earnest hero. We don't need to believe in anything. But he is here to tell us that believing in good and doing good is a virtue. Of course, he would be nowhere if it wasn't for the casting, and with the big three, he knocks it out of the park. With Nicholas Holt's Lex Luthor, we kind of get the Luthor I've always wanted to see in these movies. A little bit of the sardonic Gene Hackman, a little bit of the tech bro that Jesse Eisenberg should have been, even a little bit of the animated series Luthor. And he's this amalgamation of an evil, demented, and jealous guy who just happens to have every resource at his disposal. David Corenswet is exceptional as Superman, not just because he looks the part, but he gets a lot of layers to play. He's a guy who doesn't understand why the world has to hate. He's just doing his job. But the more pragmatic Lois Lane tells him that, well, it doesn't really work like that. You know, I'm always worried with these movies that they won't give Lois Lane enough to do, but in this one, they did her right, because Brosnahan is tough and steely, and she matches wits with Clark at every turn. The best scene in the movie isn't flying or smashing, it's a one-on-one interview between Lois and Superman. Their chemistry is so easygoing, so effortless, and it makes this scene where there's real tension between the two bounce off the screen. It's a kind of scene you don't see in comic book movies a lot, and with this scene at the beginning of the film, I was primed to go all in on this movie. That being said, Gunn is also trying to set up a universe, which means including the Justice Gang, don't call them that, Green Lantern, Hawkgirl, Mr. Terrific, who are on the margins and kind of help Superman in some ways and get in the way in the others. Gunn wants to show that this universe thrives with these superpowered beings, that they can pop in and out, that this is just kind of normal day-to-day for Metropolis. And that's all well and good, but when you have the Justice Gang in action and you have Supes eventually get captured and he has to fight his way out of a portal dimension, and you have Lois Lane looking for him and Lex scheming, it's a lot to juggle, and the second act of this movie gets very busy. Luckily, Gunn brings all these elements together for the third act, which features the smashing and the flying and the life or death stakes. Now, Zack Snyder got a lot of flack for the amount of destruction his Man of Steel had at the end, but there's kind of just as much at the end of this one. I mean, you kind of can't do these movies without a lot of CGI punching and things blowing up. That being said, Gunn never loses sight of the characters and who Superman is at his core, so the action does have weight. It's bouncy and light, but we're never punished by epicness like the Snyder movies. There's a bit of cognitive dissonance with this movie because we haven't been used to this much frothiness in superhero movies in quite a while, not since the 2000s. There's also some excellent supporting turns from Skylar Gisondo as Jimmy Olsen, which, hey, Jimmy Olsen, remember him? Anthony Carrigan as Metamorpho, another superpowered being. And Eddie Gathegi is terrific as Mr. Terrific. And Nathan Fillion as the Green Lantern, who's kind of a dick, which is a lot of fun. Just when the movie was about to wear me out by all its action and punching and ball juggling in the air, it finally comes to a satisfying conclusion and leaves us wanting more for not just this character, but for the future of the DCEU. This all really just comes down to what you want from a Superman movie. I myself love Man of Steel, and I love the Christopher Reeve movie. I didn't love this, but as a template going forward, this is an excellent start to a new DCU. James Gunn's Superman is an overwhelming success. It's light, fun, buoyant, and introduces these characters into a new cinematic universe. Unfortunately, that also means it's kind of busy and overstuffed and a lot of too much of a good thing, but it's still an enjoyable and exceptional start to this new cinematic universe. I give Superman a respectable 3.5 stars out of 5. If you like this review, please like and subscribe or follow me on Letterboxd at RamirezS316. He does it all. He writes, he does YouTube reviews, and he does silly voices.